More grabbing and shoving, shouting and slapping. I didn't understand where this man had come from, this lion who'd replaced my docile, frail excuse for a parent. A lion protecting his cubs. He knew that fear was the only weapon he had left to save my life, and if I didn't fear the threat of the plague, then damn it, I was going to fear him.
Did it work?
Some martyr I turned out to be. I think I cried all the way to Cairo.
Cairo?
There were no direct flights to Israel from Kuwait, not even from Egypt once the Arab League imposed its travel restrictions. We had to fly from Kuwait to Cairo, then take a bus across the Sinai Desert to the crossing at Taba. As we approached the border, I saw the wall for the first time. It was still unfinished, naked steel beams rising above the concrete foundation. I'd known about the infamous security fence. What citizen of the Arab world didn't? But I'd always been led to believe that it only surrounded the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Out here in the middle of this barren desert, it only confirmed my theory that the Israelis were expecting an attack along their entire border. Good, I thought. The Egyptians have finally rediscovered their balls. At Taba, we were taken off the bus and told to walk, single file, past cages that held very large and fierce-looking dogs. We went one at a time. A border guard, this skinny black African, I didn't know there were black Jews, would hold out his hand. "Wait there," he said in barely recognizable Arabic. Then, "You go, come." The man before me was old. He had a long white beard and supported himself on a cane. As he passed the dogs, they went wild, howling and snarling, biting and charging at the confines of their cages. Instantly, two large chaps in civilian clothing were at the old man's side, speaking something in his ear and escorting him away. I could see the man was injured. His dishdasha was torn at the hip and stained with brown blood. These men were certainly no doctors, however, and the black, unmarked van they escorted him to was certainly no ambulance. Bastards, I thought, as the old man's family wailed after him, weeding out the ones too sick and old to be of any use to them. Then it was our turn to walk the gauntlet of dogs. They didn't bark at me, nor the rest of my family. I think one of them even wagged its tail as my sister held out her hand. The next man after us, however, again came the barks and growls, again came the nondescript civilians. I turned to look at him and was surprised to see a white man, American maybe, or Canadian. No, he had to be American. His English was too loud. "Come on, I'm fine," he shouted and struggled. "Come on, man, what the fuck?" He was well-dressed, a suit and tie, matching luggage that was tossed aside as he began to fight with the Israelis. "Dude, come on, get the fuck off me. I'm one of you, come on." The buttons on his shirt ripped open, revealing a blood-stained bandage wrapped tightly around his stomach. He was still kicking and screaming as they dragged him into the back of the van. I didn't understand it. Why these people? Clearly, it wasn't just about being an Arab or even about being wounded. I saw several refugees with severe injuries pass through without molestation from the guards. They were all escorted to waiting ambulances, real ambulances, not the black vans. I knew it had something to do with the dogs. Were they screaming for rabies? That made the most sense to me, and it continued to be my theory during our internment outside Yeroham.
The resettlement camp?
Resettlement and quarantine. At that time, I just saw it as a prison. It was exactly what I'd expected to happen to us. The tents, the overcrowding, the guards, barbed wire, and the seething, baking Negev desert sun. We felt like prisoners. We were prisoners. And although I would have never had the courage to say to my father, "I told you so," he could see it clearly in my sour face. What I didn't expect was the physical examinations. Every day from an army of medical personnel. Blood, skin, hair, saliva, even urine and feces. It was exhausting, mortifying. The only thing that made it bearable, and probably what prevented an all-out riot among some of the Muslim detainees, was that most of the doctors and nurses doing the examinations were themselves Palestinian. The doctor who examined my mother and sisters was a woman, an American woman from a place called Jersey City. The man who examined us was from Jabaliyya in Gaza and had himself been a detainee only a few months before. He kept telling us, "You made the right decision to come here. You'll see. I know it's hard, but you'll see it was the only way." He told us it was all true, everything the Israelis had said. I still couldn't bring myself to believe him, even though a growing part of me wanted to. We stayed at Yeroham for 3 weeks until our papers were processed and our medical examinations finally cleared. You know, the whole time, they barely even glanced at our passports. My father had done all this work to make sure our official documents were in order. I don't think they even cared. Unless the Israeli Defense Force or the police wanted you for some previous unkosher activities, all that mattered was your clean bill of health. The Ministry of Social Affairs provided us with vouchers for subsidized housing, free schooling, and a job for my father at a salary that would support the entire family. This is too good to be true, I thought, as we boarded the bus for Tel Aviv. The hammer is going to fall any time now. It did once we entered the city of Beersheba. I was asleep. I didn't hear the shots or see the driver's windscreen shatter. I jerked awake as I felt the bus swerve out of control. We crashed into the side of a building. People screamed. Glass and blood were everywhere. My family was close to the emergency exit. My father kicked the door open and pushed us out into the street. There was shooting from the windows, doorways. I could see that it was soldiers versus civilians with guns or homemade bombs. This is it, I thought. My heart felt like it was going to burst. The liberation has started. Before I could do anything, run out to join my comrades in battle, someone had me by my shirt and was pulling me through the doorway of a Starbucks. I was thrown on the floor next to my family. My sisters were crying as my mother tried to crawl on top of them. My father had a bullet wound in the shoulder. An IDF soldier shoved me on the ground, keeping my face away from the window. My blood was boiling. I started looking for something I could use as a weapon, maybe a large shard of glass to ram through the Yehud's throat.